Thanks for coming back and checking us out again. I'm Chris. I'm here with Dr. Frank Stillo again. This topic here is one that we get a lot in our Carolina territories, especially working our way down to the South Carolina line. And then for those that don't know, we have pretty much every Lowe's with exclusive water treatment dealer for pretty much all your Lowe's down the North Carolina coast and over Midway with about 25 different Lowe's. So we get a lot of customers, a lot of questions. This is one that we've been getting for the last year and a half to 2 years, and it really is, what about the city putting in a reverse osmosis unit for our entire county? One of the questions I really wanted to get a little bit more education from someone smarter like Frank here is, what about the existing pipes that are there? What are your thoughts on the counties and the cities doing that? And what should the homeowners kind of know about the existing plumbing that they have?
Number one, I think it's awesome that counties are investing in their public's water quality. I think that's just fantastic. And they're using a great technology. Reverse osmosis is a great technology, and it's going to remove PFAS from drinking water. I will say it's a huge investment, so hopefully they have a lot of planning that goes involved in this. These are massive systems. They're massively expensive. They could be 9 figures, so hundreds of millions of dollars just to install a system like this. Depends on obviously how big the system is. But you asked the question, what about the existing pipes? And so there is some existing research out there that says PFAS does stick in the joints or in the scale of these existing water lines, both throughout the water treatment system, the water distribution system. So underneath your roads, your sidewalks, up into your house, and also inside your house. So plumbing that your water treatment operator doesn't have control of. That's actually your responsibility. And so the PFAS will still be there in some concentration. I will say the jury's still out on what that concentration is. Is it at healthy levels? Does it leach back into your system? There is some evidence that says as your water sits in your pipes, so think about like when you're sleeping, it stagnates for 8 to 10 hours, depending on how you sleep, or if you go away on vacation for a couple of days. That's when you're going to see higher levels of PFAS leaching back into your water system, and they recommend flushing your water system, so running the water tap for a certain period of time. And again, I think the jury's still out on what's the safe level, what's the procedure, how does this even work?
Yeah, you prompt one thing. What is the technical term, or the coating that some of these municipalities will put in there? Sometimes it hopefully helps that water pass through. And then before I forget that other thing, when I think about the scaling, when you talk about inside, just somebody's regular little water mains coming up to the street, and you see that pipe's that big and it's filled 3/4 with just sediment. And we talk about that kind of scale breakdown. Not to give you too many at one time here, but also, once you take that water down to reverse osmosis level, and the amount of scale that's in some of these pipes, I mean, repressurizing, depressurizing, running clean water, the cleaner the water, as we know, it's the best solvent in the world if it's clean. Pulling scale off and having years and years, when we talk about PFAS has been out for 50, 70, 80 years, I mean, we're still learning so many different things, how many layers of that PFAS is in there, that term forever chemical. I mean, as we break those layers off and go through, are we not introducing more PFAS as we go?
Yeah, I think the most reputable case in America happened 10 or 15 years ago in a town in Michigan called Flint, Michigan, where they had changed their water source. So they were using one water source, and they had to change it to another water source for various reasons. And this actually changed the chemistry of water that they were using, and so their treatment had to change. Think about how they have to neutralize. If you have more acidic water, you have to neutralize, and you have to add different chemicals in there. And so when they changed to this new water source, you alluded to this, one of the things that they have to add to their water, so that this scale doesn't leach into their water system because it's slightly acidic to these pipes, is they have to add these chemicals in there that actually prevent that scaling from leaching into your water. And so what happened in Flint, Michigan, they didn't do it correctly, And all of this scale that had really, really high levels of lead because they had lead service lines or lead pipes going to these neighborhoods, they started breaking off and inundating the drinking water that the water treatment company was providing to this town with massive high levels of lead. The same could be said, like you were mentioning, and I really don't think that the EPA or anyone really knows this right now because they haven't been spending the money and research on it. Is how much PFAS got into that system in Flint, Michigan. They know lead was an easy test back then. They didn't have really sophisticated tests for PFAS that goes down to parts per trillion. And I think that's something that they're going to be figuring out. Even just today, the EPA came out with rescinding their 2024 rules on what PFAS they're regulating. Again, just as a reminder, we have another video on this, but they regulate 5 of the many tens of thousands PFAS chemicals. They regulate 5, and then they have a group that kind of combines them together called total PFAS. But now instead of regulating those 6, let's call them 6 regulations, they only regulate 2 compounds. Or at least that's the current proposal that just happened. I just read it today. So it's a changing landscape. And again, as a reminder, these are your current water treatment operators do not have to test for PFAS. There's no standard that forces them to do it. There's no standard that forces them to implement any solution to remove PFAS in there. They need time to implement these reverse osmosis or whatever technology there is. And so for the time being, you're not protected, and we don't know what levels of PFAS you're actually getting from them.
Yeah, I think the theme that we try to do with these videos too, and we want to always have that disclaimer out there. I mean, we think the city's doing an amazing job. We teach our sales teams from scratch, and I know I say it throughout every single week. I deal more on the customer side of things, and we constantly say, hey, any effort they want to make, like Frank touched on at the beginning, any effort is better than no effort. And so any extra filtration is great. There were specific things we touched on about, running that clean of water through there. Is it possible? Here's the way I try to look at it and the way I try to summarize it for folks when I'm talking to them in general and not as much on the scientific stuff is, the cities do the very best they can. We appreciate everything they do. At the end of the day, you go look at the water, look at it in a pond, look at it into the reservoirs, and then you see what's coming out of your tap, and it's amazing. At some point in time, and why water filtration is such a, I don't want to say growing industry, but the more education that people are finding, the more they want to take that ownership over. I mean, clean air, clean water. As a human, I don't know what gets more important. So they're starting to realize it's not, clean, healthy water is not a luxury; it's a necessity. I will say, just from a really general purpose of, let's just say let's just say all the piping was brand new coming down from the city in every last place, and they were able to put a perfect reverse osmosis system on there. They were able to get you the pressure, give you the product, and it was all fantastic. That would be amazing. I think we know that's not possible. And again, we love our cities, we love our municipalities, our city workers, but these little stats come straight pretty much from the EPA on here every single year, and just annually, when they're doing their very best, we still have over 240,000. This is in the U.S. We still have over 240,000 water main breaks per year. We still have over 600 water main breaks per day. That's American Society of Civil Engineers. The sewer overflows over 23 to 75,000. This is from the U.S. EPA per year. Over 850 billion gallons of sewage. That's a whole different thing, that sewage violations and overflows. And I think you just mentioned one in your territory.
Lake Crabtree in just outside of Raleigh had many thousand of gallons of raw sewage go into the lake. And again, like you said, these utilities are doing a really, really great job, but we have aging infrastructure that they're having to maintain. There's hot and cold weather events. There's accidents that happen. I mean, they have a really challenging job, and again, they still have to deal with all these things.
Yeah, this is a series all in itself that I don't even know if me and you could. I know I couldn't put much to it, but over 50,000 water rule violations per year. That comes from the EPA. What does that mean?
Yeah.
What happens for the people that violated, is there actually anything? I know oftentimes it's just a letter in the mail a couple weeks, and hopefully you read it and it says we're going to do better in a lot of circumstances, but that's one we don't really want to get into. Over 4,000 to 7,000 health-based violations. That's the EPA. Over 7,000 boil water advisories. That's another one of our episodes there about boiling. We're trying to stay in the PFAS realm. And I just got a little bit wide here. This is a big one, 400,000 to 500,000 septic failures per year in the U.S. And you may not think that affects you, but there's tons and tons of septic areas that are right outside of the neighborhood, and that overflow is going into all of our different city runoffs and reservoirs and things like that. So again, they're doing the very best that they can. I do want to just say, even when if they were able to install a reverse osmosis, they always are going to have to disinfect this water. And so many of our customers, if you ever have a chance to go through our testimonials, our real customers are right here on the website. Thousands as you go through there. And eczema, dry skin, all the type of things from the chlorine, the ammonia, they're still going to have to disinfect that water to get it all the way down. And those are different topics, different videos. So treating the water at the point of use, there is a level of peace of mind that I know that we find talking to a lot of families that they're not going to ever give that up and just count on the city or the municipalities to do that. But without running around too much more, anything else that you want to add to this?
Yeah, two things. One is you touched on it, so just to kind of define, so the public water systems, they give you water to the point of entry of your house, so basically to your house. And then you use water from that point, so from basically your property line, it goes through your pipes into your house, and then where you actually use it is called your point of use, so your kitchen faucet, for instance. So that's basically two definitions there. But then the other thing that I would say, as far as cost for these community-wide systems, you mentioned in the beginning of this talk that this town wanted to put a RO system for all the gallons for all of the people in their town. Not every town can afford that level of quality and system. And so what's happening in North Carolina, at least what I've seen in my neck of the woods, they have regional authorities where these towns are coming together because they can't afford it alone. And so now you have these bigger systems that are coming together. But right now, what I would say is the EPA is forcing them to the community water systems across the United States have the next several years to get their act together and find the money and put these systems in.
And that keeps getting pushed back.
It keeps getting pushed back. It just got pushed back this week.
Yeah, and then the maintenance to it.
Yeah.
How long is it going to be until we actually, now we have the perfect city water system, the perfect unit, and now how's it going to be? And then to test the maintenance over year after year after year. And then when are those units going to be shut down for maintenance on themselves, or how often? So I do run back to just it's more and more families are finding out to take that ownership over, because we're not even discussing in this episode or anything regarding plastics and all the other think about all things that are flushed down the toilet, things that we won't go there, guys.
Well, I would also say in North Carolina, at least, there's 25% of the population relies on private wells. Mm-hmm. So that doesn't even affect it. Like, there is no maximum contaminant level for a private well. There's no mandated testing for that. So those folks aren't protected. So,
well, guys, hopefully this gave a little bit of education here on this, and check us out on the next one.